want to talk about technology trends, and the man I've called into the studio at TheInformer is our digital strategist from Penso. He's the founder. His name is Con Frantzeskos. Welcome, mate.
Thank you, George.
First thing I want to talk about is, I can remember, and it wasn't that long ago, people saying to me, you know, you're an Apple man, mate, you should be looking at something else because Apple's not going anywhere. Well, Tim Cook had come in. I thought of him when you compared him to Steve Jobs as Mr. Bland, Mr. Uber Bland. Well, he's done something right, because what's happening at Apple? It's going from strength to strength.
Well, Apple has made an extraordinary quarterly profit, a record profit from Apple.
Yeah, and that is extraordinary, because when they talk records, they break all manner of numbers, don't they?
They break all records. Some of those figures, George, are quite extraordinary.
Yeah, mind-numbing is what people are saying to me. The numbers are up, 50-60% year on year.
$89.6 billion US in revenue.
Mate, that's Gates stuff. When you talk 80 billion, that's Bill Gates, isn't it?
Oh, it's well beyond Bill Gates. It's well beyond Microsoft.
No, that's his total wealth. This is year on year.
This is just a quarter. This is just for the last 3 months.
Cheer.
And the thing that makes it most interesting is that usually this quarter, because it's a kind of, I won't call it a dead quarter, but January, February, March isn't like, say, end of school year or beginning of school year, or end of financial year or beginning of school year. Those quarters are generally a lot bigger. This is generally a dead quarter. So for them to break records in a dead quarter shows that Apple is absolutely on a charge.
So what you're saying to me is COVID has been like not a godsend, but it's been a fantastic opportunity for people to, as they say, bunk down with all their devices. Is that played right into their hands?
Absolutely. So the context has been right, COVID, but also the products have been fantastic. Apple have recently had quite a big shift in their products. Again, if you look at it broadly, hardware, software, services.
And wearables.
And wearables, that's right. The hardware there, they've used their own chips. They're now starting to really integrate. So it means that they've got a lot more flexibility, a lot more speed, a lot more things that we'd look at now and say, wow, Apple's really taken that next step in terms of how they bring these products to life.
Apple, people have been complaining about Apple for ages, like, oh, look, Android had this years ago. Android. Suddenly, though, their 10, their 11, and now their 12 have really taken it to another level. Their cameras are better than ever before. The audio, the pixelation, the screens, the size options now. You don't get one size fits all. You get 5, 6 different sizes. That was, half a dozen years ago, that was not something Steve Jobs was contemplating. He believed it had to be in your hand. If it was too big for your hand, they didn't want it. Remember the original iPhone?
Yeah.
You could almost do anything with one finger. Now, it's your whole hand.
Well, it's an interesting perspective, because you're right. Steve Jobs originally said, well, unless you can flick with the finger. The other thing was that people don't want to, his famous comment, people don't want to watch video on a small screen. Now, the big shift there was that he hadn't necessarily factored in Asia, and the fact that, in particular in Southeast Asia, but many parts of Asia, people are still living with their parents till their late 20s, early 30s. Their parents are watching the TV, and they
hogging the TV,
and they want to be able to watch whatever they want to watch. So the only place to do that is on a phone. So therefore,
or iPad.
So the bigger the phone or the bigger the iPad, the better. And the iPads and the phones then became, well, you've seen the Apple ads where they kind of challenge people to live without a laptop and just be on their iPad. You can do that these days, and that's where Apple's recognised that they need the Pro line, which is probably about that big, or phablet, phone tablets as they call them, all the way through the smaller phones that might be suitable for just carrying around in your pocket day to day. But again, the iPhones, as much as I think the difference was back in the old days, as you said, Androids, or Google Android phones.
They had leapt ahead. They were taking risks every other year.
And that's true.
And Apple was closed shop, keeping it simple.
But I think the difference was that those phone manufacturers might have been selling a lot more phones, but the profits they were making were very, very wafer thin. So after a while they realised, well, hold on, we can't compete with Apple because we're really a commodity play. Whereas Apple owns the whole, what's called the stack, which is the software, well, the middleware, the software, the hardware, which means they can control the whole stack, which means you get things like advantages of privacy, or you get the idea that people can maximize that hardware because they know that if they create an app for the Apple iOS, that it is optimized for that hardware, so you get better performance. So there has been an argument for a long time over whether it's, as you called it, a closed system like Apple versus an open system. The problem is there's a lot of people competing there, making very small margins, which means it's hard to innovate, versus Apple that just says, watch this, we can innovate because we're making huge profits. Their sales might not be as high as an individual firm as, say, the collective 6 or 7 manufacturers over here, but their profits are extraordinary.
Well, Tim Cook has added another layer. He's now saying the future for us is service. And it's iCloud, it's this cloud, it's the other cloud, it's all Apple.
That's right.
Yeah?
Yeah, so iCloud, which is obviously file storage. There's Apple Music, of course, that we know very well. And again, extraordinary growth compared to Spotify. That's to a certain degree stagnated.
Yep.
There's obviously Apple TV Plus, there's News Plus, there's Fitness Plus.
Apple TV, though, has been the question mark. Because Netflix has been this giant that's come out of nowhere, got millions during COVID locked in, and rightly so, because people didn't know what to do. And I had some friends of ours just rock back from Greece. They went over there for a holiday, got stuck, couldn't do anything for 6 months, imagine. And they've come back and they've thought, oh God, we're back in Australia. And I said, what did you do? He says, we watched a lot of Netflix. I'm thinking, oh dear. So, we think to ourselves, that we've had it hard, but the countries around the world have been seriously locked down. So this play, as you're talking about, has been a beautiful dovetail for all the media giants, but Apple in particular. So Apple TV, is it going to improve? I know it's now making more and more, it's commissioning more and more work. Yeah? And what they're doing is gilt-edged.
Absolutely.
That's the difference maker, as you've been saying.
Very high quality. The thing about all of these streaming services is they talk about new is for acquisition, and back catalogue is for retention. Now, Apple doesn't have a back catalogue because they've only started a couple of months ago or a year ago, and they don't have a studio. They haven't bought a studio. They haven't partnered with a studio to say, hey, listen, everything in the back catalogue in, for example, the same way Disney Plus has.
Correct. Yep.
What we're seeing at the moment is that Netflix over the last, I think, half has more or less stagnated because their new pipeline isn't as strong compared to, say, Disney Plus, which now has integrated Star. So what you've got with Disney Plus is you've got a pipeline of 10 Star Wars shows, for example.
Correct.
Plus all the old back catalogues from the Fox catalogue, including, for example, my favourite MASH. But that is a tremendously large back catalogue with a really clever Marvel, Star Wars, and other studio front end.
Correct.
So Disney is showing extraordinary growth at the moment. But Apple's still doing quite well. And the ability for Apple to then...
And Apple Plus is going to be the next big player, huh?
That's right. And that's exactly it. So yes, you've got a great music service. Yes, you've got a great TV and film service. Yes, you've got a great fitness service. And then you connect that to things like wearables and your phone and your iPad. And it's a pretty good play.
You touched on something there, the fitness component. It went berserk during COVID. People locked down, they were told you can't, in Melbourne of course, 5Ks, you couldn't go any further, an hour, so a lot of people resorted to these fitness programs. And suddenly, Apple again, in a winning space, because they were providing access to something truly special.
Well, yeah, what's quite remarkable about Apple's strategy is instead of looking at it through the lens of, I've got a gym, or let's call it a rented box with gym equipment in it that I have to go and visit. What Apple's saying is the gym is really you, right? The idea of personal telemetry, measuring everything about you from your ECG to your how many steps you walk to your exercise.
Letting you compete against you.
That's exactly it. And so therefore Apple will say you haven't done this exercise or you should think about
move
or breathe.
Move, baby.
Or don't move.
So where do you think, what's next? We talk about service and the service element. What's next for them? Is there going to be an Apple 13 or is it going to be a 12S?
It'll be, well, seemingly I think there'll be an iPhone 13. The other thing that Apple's been talking about
Again, you keep telling me 13's lucky in Asia.
That's right. Well, the thing is that they've got their pillars. iMac has done extraordinarily well.
Yes.
iPad's doing very, very well.
Off the charts.
The iPhone 12.
Their Pro is top class.
Absolutely fantastic.
We a friend of ours who's really hard to please got their new iPad Pro and cannot believe the changes and the evolution. Things you couldn't do half a dozen years ago.
Apparently it's 50% faster than the previous model.
Okay.
An extraordinary lift.
Well, that's substantial.
But what we're looking at Apple is that they haven't had, say, a new category like an iPhone or a smart speaker or one of these things in quite a while. There is a lot of talk that they're going to be doing a lot more in home automation and Internet of Things.
Ah, yes, the Internet of Things.
And the other thing that they've been talking about for quite a while is the idea of an Apple car, which of course we hear rumours that they approached Hyundai and asked them to make their Apple car on spec, and Hyundai said, only if we're a partner, and Apple said, we don't do partners.
No, we're unique, and that's why they are. The man talking Apple and talking about so many innovations is the man from Penso, Constantine Frantzeskos, who's our digital strategist. He comes each and every week and we talk about all manner of things. The Internet of Things really excites me. Come back and talk about that. If you want to know more, make sure you follow us on TheInformer.tv.